Hello, and welcome to a super duper episode of the Drywall Podcast. I'm your host, once again, Nick Harmon. With us today, we have Logan Davis of Davis Custom Homes out of Idaho Falls, Idaho. I reached out to Logan recently because he purchased a large amount of Fresco Harmony, and I always get a little curious when that happens. We talk about his experience with traditional plaster and why he's taken a shine to the Fresco Harmony product. Currently, he's a site superintendent for PFB Custom Homes out of Meridian. I dug in to find out a little more about this superintendent stuff.
It's been nice to learn the other parts of it. My heart still lies with drywall, but getting to see the other facets of it and learn it. I don't know if I would ever pick up a hawk and trowel again to do large jobs. Just finding them for guys, supplying them with the materials is probably where I'll stay. That's just been my new norm, and that's typically how I've been running it. Finding the guys, getting the right crew lined out, getting them ready to do the jobs, and like these guys I'm gonna have do this project I'm currently sitting at. Finding the right guys for the job that were willing to learn something new, that I got them excited about doing it, is for me like that's just another hat I can wear.
We have a fantastic conversation about Fresco Harmony and traditional plasters and the systems along with traditional plasters, along with a host of other topics, all packed into this, the 131st episode of the Drywall Podcast. I would like to give a huge shout out to Tape Tech for sponsoring the Drywall Podcast in the month of May. It's Tape Tech's first time sponsoring the Drywall Podcast, and we appreciate them for that. Be sure to check out my episode with the famous Mark Wilson of Ames and Tape Tech, episode 125 on the Drywall Podcast. It's good. I promise you'll like it. All right, if you haven't seen it yet, Tape Tech just dropped something really cool, and it's not the auto taper onto the ground, just the opposite actually. It's called the T-Raxx taping tool rack system, T-RAXX. Have you ever opened your van just to watch your taper slide out and smack the pavement? Let's talk about a better way to carry your tools. It's time to meet the T-Raxx. This is the first and only tool rack system made specifically for ATF tools, and it's built by Tape Tech. It keeps your entire ATF setup organized, upright, and ready to go. No more digging around for your flusher or worrying about your taper rolling off the tailgate. The 14-piece T-Raxx system is built for versatility, and you can take it from your shop to your van to the job site without missing a beat. It includes racks, trays, clamps, and mounting rails to securely hold your large and small ATF tools, with dedicated space for your drills and lubricants and cleaning stuff, all that crap. This system transforms how finishers transport and use their tools. No matter what brand you're using, Tape Tech, Level 5, Columbia, Drywall Masters, Ames, it doesn't matter. They all fit in the T-Raxx. That's what it's designed for. Now, the T-Raxx is exclusive to Tape Tech and available through Ames, Allwall, and West Tech. The rack system is just $149, and when paired with the stack pack boxes, you've got the most customizable pro-grade storage solution on the market. End of story. There's another little story that I would like to share with you. It's about my new friend Logan Davis out of Idaho on the 131st episode of the Drywall Podcast. Let's get into it. We got it's episode 131. We got ZZ Top. I don't know. You know what? East Coast drywall tools. Derek Trout. Do you know who that is?
I don't.
Cool dude. He refurbishes old tools. He's got like a collection of old tools. I interviewed him a while ago. He's got a pretty good beard. You might be either first or second for people on the podcast that have amazing beards.
Well, it's more of a nuisance than anything, to be honest with you.
Yeah, how long have you been growing that thing?
I cut, well, it's down to about here. I had it down to my belly button about
Oh wow.
7, 8 years ago, and had to cut it off because I got it caught up in a drill. So I cut some off of it. So I've been about 8 years with a beard.
Eek. Did it take some of it out when you caught it in the drill?
Mm-hmm.
Ouch.
I took a big old chunk of it out.
Ow.
Yeah.
Can you tell me and our audience what that feels like getting your beard caught in a drill?
I'm gonna place it probably as close to like my wife telling me getting waxed feels.
Okay.
Hurts like hell. Yep.
Yeah. Hurts like hell.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. So we know two fun facts about Logan already. He has an amazing beard and his wife gets waxed. Nice. And you are
Davis Custom Homes is what I go by.
Okay,
is what my company name is.
Okay, so are you just drywall or do you build custom homes?
I build custom homes. So
nice.
right now I am a site superintendent for a company based out of Meridian called PFB Custom Homes. I've taken a break from doing my own thing for a little bit. Just over the last 5 years, I needed a little bit more stability. Over here in Idaho, it's a pretty fierce competition for custom home builders. And I just don't like gouging the hell out of clients like some of these guys around here do. So I took a back seat. My company took a back seat for a little bit, but I do drywall jobs. I've got one lined up next week that we're going to do a level 5 finish on the ceilings, and I actually got to get a hold of you and get some more material ordered. I sold a house, a basement, so it's going to be the family room, the theater room, a bathroom, and we're doing the finish with the sand in it.
Nice. And you and I I just sort of introduced you to this whole sand finish concept. Yep. And Logan's kind of running with it, which is kind of why I was like, okay, he's kind of an interesting character out of Idaho. Maybe we should throw him on the Drywall Podcast to see what this guy's all about. Have you listened to the Drywall Podcast at all?
When I get time, I do. The last time I listened was probably about mid-February. For the most part, as soon as I'm up, I've got subs calling me till about the time I go to bed. So I don't get much time off of the phone. My phone is continually plugged in. My work phone's continually plugged in just because they're ringing constantly.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to come on the Drywall Podcast today. Despite your busy schedule, we had a little bit of a mix up last week, but you segued for the great and powerful Drywall Shorty, who's kind of an icon in the industry. She's a badass. And you've heard of her a little bit, right?
Yes. Yep, I have.
Okay. You guys are how far are you away from Bozeman?
I'm about 2.5 hours away.
All right. And then we have a couple people out of Three Forks, Montana, that area that have done some Fresco.
Sweet.
Also, yeah, Kevin Bush, Chris Bush. They're both out of there. Do you know those guys?
I've heard of them.
Okay. All right. So yeah, you're in that area. Cool. Beautiful country. Yeah.
Yep, it is.
A little background for our listeners. You've just done a couple of big purchases, and I was like, who is this guy? And I had some questions for you, man. And then I reached out to you. We talked a little bit, and I was like, oh, he's pretty well spoken. we should get you on the Drywall Podcast, and that's kind of how it happened. How did you hear about Fresco Harmony to begin with?
So let's see, it's been about 8 years ago. I was living in West Yellowstone, and I was living in a house that had some really shoddily done drywall.
Okay.
And at the time, I was looking for something to kind of sell in that area. You've got the custom homes, you've got some stuff over there that, everybody kind of wants that niche that is something they can put out there that is something that's not very well known.
Yeah.
So I actually started looking up. I was going to get some plaster because I did plaster I did Venetian plaster for a long time.
Okay.
And I decided to start looking around, see what I could find. And I in all actuality, I stumbled across Fresco Harmony's website by accident. And I got looking at the colors. I was watching the videos that you guys have on the website. And I'm like, I'm going to give it a try.
How do you stumble across the website by accident? Was it like keyword searches?
Yeah, just keyword searches. I was looking for a dyed finish, a tinted finish to drywall. And I think yours was the first that came up. Fresco Harmony was the first that came up. And then I did 3 accent walls in the house. I did a stairwell in the Marianne Mocha. It was actually the first color I come across.
Beautiful.
And I did that a little bit different than I had done. I treated it more like a plaster finish where I'd burn it. I'd put it on. I did the first layer. And then the second layer, what happened was I didn't have my pool trowel with me when I was applying it. So I had a little bit more ridges than I wanted. And I took my standard trowel out, and I actually did a chatter mark that I kind of kicked myself in the ass for a second for looking at it. I'm like, you know what? I think I can make this stuff have the character I wanted to have it. Because I'd watched all the instructional videos that you guys have on the website. So I'm like, I'm going to put my own little flair on it.
Yeah.
And I burnt it like I did with plaster. So it actually I had some black tones show up. I had some lighter, and it ended up I made that Marianne Mocha look like an old brown saddle. Like just the marks that looked in it. It actually turned out to be one of my favorite colors until I got into the grays, and the grays are probably hands down my favorite colors that you guys sell.
Yeah.
And after that, I did probably about 20 houses where I just do an accent wall in the living room or, in a bedroom. And then we moved back to Southeast Idaho, and I've been able to sell. I've sold some houses over in the Snake River Sporting Club outside of Jackson. I've sold one in Jackson itself. I've got a couple this summer that I've got to do that are going to be all encompassing. So we're going to be doing the ceilings and the walls. And I think the last time I talked to the homeowner, we were going to be doing 4 different colors throughout the house.
Beautiful.
And the thing that really turned me on to your product is it's not only economical, but it is a beautiful finish. You can sell it all day, every day. I mean, it is the product speaks for itself.
Yeah, people might think like, oh, it's a faux plaster, or it's like it's like a wannabe, but it has its own look. It's gorgeous.
Oh yes, definitely.
And in many instances, I'm like, well, this looks better than like that plaster over there. Or I've seen plaster. I'm like, well, Fresco looks better than that. So, and I've seen plasters that look better than Fresco. Like, if somebody's into that shiny, burnished, mirror finish plaster look, then plaster is definitely the way to go. And it's harder, but stop me if I'm wrong. Like that, the malleability is kind of an asset. Being able to pull the tape after you're done sealing. You can go back and kind of sand it off and reseal it. Patching can still be a pain, right? But you can reskim a wall if you want, and you're not battling it the whole time.
No, and you're not, and you're correct. That's the one thing that I do really like about the product is I'm doing the Ferguson stone in my personal home, and some materials delivered, some new cabinets in my place delivered, and I've got my kitchen done, and the cabinets put a hole in the wall, and I'd already had the glaze on it. I had it finished, And the patching of it was, like you said, it was a 4 foot by 8 foot section
Yeah.
of wall that I just reskimmed, and it looks phenomenal. Like you
Done.
can't tell the difference between one portion to another. And that's kind of the downside of plaster, is if you don't have your combinations correct, and you don't have, if everything's not correct, you're going to see a definitive line, where with the Fresco Harmony, there's no delineation of a patch or two different buckets of mud going on the same wall.
Right, right. That's the other big thing. Yeah, the consistency from batch to batch.
Yes, for sure.
If you mix it properly. We're going to talk about a couple of things then that I'm curious about. The sales too, because I get lots of people. I mean, you can imagine. I get people like you that just start buying it and using it, like, which is my favorite. And then you get people that, like, you really got to, like, take down the sales pathway, and really, because drywall guys aren't used to, like, upselling accent wall or a specialty or a decorative wall finish. Let's go back to so were you a plaster person before you were a drywall person? How did that work?
Nope. I started doing drywall when I was 16 years old. I was doing it after school, 3 days a week. And when I turned 18, I was working for a guy that started just feeding me jobs.
Love it.
And he got me into the plaster side of it. So I started my own company, doing both, standard drywall finishes, taking it hang tape texture. And then he started feeding me more plaster jobs because he was falling behind. And I did plaster. My crew did mainly plaster for about 2 years before I went over and learned from a guy in Twin Falls, Idaho, named Tim James.
Okay, hold up.
Go ahead.
Hold up a little bit. How are you first generation? I mean, at 16, that seems pretty young to be jumping in. So you're first generation. How did you find drywall? Like, was it just like by accident? Somebody tapped you on the shoulder?
Yeah. So I had a buddy that was working for a guy out of Rexburg. His company's called Jensen Drywall, and he was just looking for guys to come and do cleanup and come and do, coating nails, coating screws, sanding. And I thought, what the hell? But back when I was younger, I think I was a little bit more of a hustler than I am right now. I had 5 jobs.
Right.
So that's how I started doing drywall, was just going up and doing cleanup, sanding, coating nails. And then he started throwing us into taping closets by hand, with a roll of tape and a pan full of mud.
Nice.
And then I got more into the coating with the boxes and all the stuff that, in my mind, I'm like, well, I want to learn how to do it by hand, but he wanted me to learn how to do it with the tool first. And I did that for about 2 years, just straight doing coating, corner bead, flats, butts. And then he started teaching me how to texture.
He wanted you to do the automatic tools before hand finishing. Generally, it's the other way around.
Yes. Yeah, and that I did not learn how to use the hand tools until I was about 21, and that's where I shifted over to Twin Falls, go learn how to use the hand tools. So, even now being 41, I still prefer to do my butts, my flats with a trowel and a hawk. Okay.
Do you use that? That's unique too for the United States. Not a lot of hawk and trowel dudes. Mostly pan and knife, especially in your area.
Yeah. I get a lot of weird looks when I bust out a hawk and a trowel to start coating flats and butts.
It's easier though, right? Like, you think it's better?
I like it a lot better. I think, me personally, I can feather it out. I can smooth it out better than I can with the pan and a knife. Me personally, I get a 12-inch knife and about a week later it's bent to hell. And my trowels don't do that. They're just, I feel like I get a better finish with a hawk and a trowel than I do with a pan and a knife.
Are you using a blue steel or a stainless trowel?
Stainless.
Stainless. Why do you like the stainless?
Just to sand it, when they get a little bit gunky, I can get them in, sand them. I feel, and just me personally, the blue steel, I don't feel like they give you as slick as a finish, me honestly. For some reason, I always feel like it's a little bit rougher, but that's just me personally.
Okay. Okay.
I've just always preferred stainless.
Very cool. Very cool. I'm fascinated already, dude. And you're not like on social media a whole lot.
Nope.
No.
I learned my lesson once. I put some stuff up on social media.
I learned my lesson.
Yeah, I took all the stuff down, so I don't really post a lot. If I'm sitting in front of a project right now that we ordered about $2,000 worth of material from you. That when this one gets done, I'm definitely going to be throwing this up on my social media sites because I think it's going to be an absolutely beautiful finish.
Yeah. Hey, Logan, fuck those haters, dude.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you. They can all kiss my ass, but at the same time, like I don't do social media very often. I grew up where social media wasn't a big thing until about 15 years ago. And I just don't have the patience for all the keyboard warrior assholes that have nothing better to do with their time.
Yeah. It's sort of part of, but I'll say this about social media though, it's been getting more chill. People are chilling out and they're getting nicer, a lot more supportive, like things like that. So it's shifting a little bit. So you are getting your chops in drywall. How did you shift over to plaster, and what type of plaster were you learning? And like, there's a bunch of questions in there, but like, because I'm always curious about plaster. How did that whole thing start?
It started with we received a job over in, I want to say it was Big Sky, if I remember right. And this was back 2001, 2002.
Okay.
No, it would have been 2003. I apologize. And the guy he's working for had been doing plaster, but very intermittently. So he asked me to come help him bang that out. It was, I'm trying to remember the brand. I want to say it was Diamond that he used a lot of.
And a lot of people don't know the differences. So you say diamond finish. I kind of know. I kind of have an idea. It's a bag. Do you have like a color? Can you take me through like the quick process of like how do you use lath with that and brown coat?
Nope. We just did so we put a mesh tape over the hung sheetrock, and then it would get a adhesive rolled over the top of it. The only thing that we would put anything on, and we just use the plaster right out of the bag, is if the butts needed to be floated a little bit further out, like more than 24 or 16 to 18 inches on each side. If we had to float them out further, we'd go through and coat those. But other than that, it was just the mesh tape and then the adhesive, and then we'd add the selected color. And if I remember right, no, when I say I remember right, I haven't touched plaster so 2007 was the last time I touched plaster. So that was 18 years ago.
Okay, so you had like a small window where you got into plaster. Would you say heavily? You did a lot of it?
Very heavily. Yeah, very heavily.
Then did you shift out of that or what happened?
I ended up tearing up both shoulders hanging a job. And it was right at the start of 2009 when the big recession hit. And I actually ended up folding my drywall company because I had to get surgeries and I had to take time out. I was looking at I ended up going from getting just my right shoulder surgery. I had 3 in a row. So I stopped doing drywall altogether till about 2013 is when I finally come back in and felt good enough that I could run a trowel, do the repetitive motion. Very heavily in plaster, and I think that's what burned my shoulders out as much as it did.
Right. Because that's
drywall is not.
Sorry, let's go back to the system. So you had the adhesive over like a mesh. Was there a special board that you had to use for the plaster?
Nope. It was
Regular drywall.
your standard. Yep.
So then you have an adhesive layer, and then how many
Yep.
layers of the plaster?
We typically did one very heavy coat, and we had to have, so there were 3 to 4 of us applying, and I had a minimum of 2 that had a formula they had to follow, because if you deviated even by an ounce of water, it would throw the color off. So they had to make sure they had the right poundage, that they got all the dye out of the bottle. They got the water amount absolutely correct, and they mixed it for the same amount of time.
That's so funny. That's so funny. You know, when you compare it to like Fresco, because people will be like, well, doesn't the water going to throw off the color? And I'm always like, no, you can add as much water as you want.
Yeah. You know, and that was one thing that, like, when I got that first couple of bottles of the Marianne Mocha, that was one of the things that I tried to see if, like, okay, if I have one of my kids mix it up and they add too much water, is it going to throw off the color? And it didn't. And that was one thing that, like, I want to work with this stuff going forward.
I didn't even know too. I was just sort of adding the color, you know, early on when I was developing. It didn't occur to me because I hadn't done a lot of plaster. I'd done one job, but I didn't think that it didn't occur to me at all. I was just like, oh, you put the color in, you keep your formula proper. If your formula's right, use the same amount of mud, you'll get the same color each time.
Yep.
So that's always kind of interesting to me. So one heavy coat and then no sealer on the plaster, but it was the labor of that one coat that's just that's the time killer.
Yeah. Yep. You had a certain amount of time, and like I said, when we'd start a room, we'd have 4 guys start the application, and then 2 guys would break back and start doing the next steps of the troweling to get it to the color that you wanted it to, or playing with it to get the variations, to get to just get the character. I always call it just the character added to it.
Yeah.
And then 2 guys would just continue to keep applying, but you had a certain amount of time to get the mud out of the bucket and on the wall, or the plaster out of the bucket and on the wall, and you just kept going and kept going and kept going. And if you were at the dead ass end of the day where you could barely move your arms, then you had a half a bucket, you had to get it on. And you always wanted to try and finish at a corner or a good stop point, to where I never tried to leave a wall undone, because I didn't ever want to have a day in between another batch coming in and starting from the previous batch of the day before.
Right. Which, of course, you can do with Fresco. You could take a break,
very much.
Go to lunch, come back, throw a lid on the bucket, come back a week later,
and you're good to go. Yep.
We've been using like the mud skip too. Gives it more plaster qualities. I don't know if you're not really on social media. Have you heard about the mud skip?
You actually told me about the mud skip when we had our first conversation. I've got some. I ordered it last week. A week before.
I'm curious your thoughts.
It might be somewhere in my garage. Yeah, I haven't used it yet. I'm very excited to try it after talking to you. I would really like to utilize that in all the Fresco projects I have coming up.
Well, just the conditioner, just the preservative qualities of the conditioner, keeping so if you have a little bit left in a bucket, it's not going to get funky on you. It'll keep, which if you do a little bit of Fresco, you realize it's nice to have those buckets kicking around, because if you got to do a little patch or somebody wants to see a sample and you don't have I keep all that extra material when I use it, just for that reason, just so I don't have to mix up another batch. Like I can just pull down, Hidalgo Brown and make a sample if somebody wants to see it.
Yeah. And that's when I was talking to you about that. That's one reason, because, I'm getting more into the bigger projects right now, but I'd do a hood vent, or I'd do one accent wall. Right. So being able to, if that client calls me up, says, if I've got a quarter or a half a bucket of mud left, client calls me up, says, oh, hey, we got this big old nasty scratch down it. All right, I'll come over and get it done. And I don't have to order the material. I already have it on hand.
Right. And I'll tell people
Yeah,
even you can clean it out of a 5 gallon bucket and just put it in an old sealer container or a
yeah,
1 gallon container. So all you got to do is keep like a quart of that stuff and
yeah,
you got enough for a little bit of patching,
yeah,
or make a sample
yeah.
with it. So I keep lots of little containers around too, especially of the custom colors. Cool, cool. Yeah, you've been doing it a bit, man. It's cool. And so this plaster runs out. You're an expert drywaller by this point. So 41. How old were you when you started? So you were saying like 2001 or two?
I was 16, so I started in 90, would have been 90 2000 is when I started.
Okay, about
No,
the same
99, I
time.
apologize. Yeah, I
And yeah,
yeah,
that's about when I started. Yeah. So right around the same. I'm a little older than you, but I didn't start till I was like 20, 21, something like that.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I just saw, there was a whole bunch of construction going on in my area at the time, that 2000 to 2009, there was such a boom in country. We were seeing an excess amount in Southeast Idaho. And, I thought when I first started that, I'm like, it'll be something that'll keep me entertained on day nights, then the weekend nights will be mine. But I really grew to love drywall. Everybody's like, how the hell do you do it? I'm like, I'm a man that gets to play in mud every day. Like, why wouldn't I
Yeah,
be happy about it? Like, I loved it. And for me, it was
that's cool.
when you start doing drywall, you start to see the character of the house, the potential of the house.
Right.
And I've always treated it as corny as it sounds. I've treated it more as an art form than a job. I love doing a skip trowel. It's one of those that somebody's like, "Oh, I want a blown texture on the wall." I don't think that is it's an easy way to finish a house, but I prefer a skip trowel or a level 4 and 5.
Okay. Yeah, and you're not. It doesn't sound corny, and it's not. It's not out of character for drywallers to talk about finishing as an art form. And
Yeah.
another common thread is that drywall speaks to us being like sort of drawn to the mud. I'm a first generation
Hmm.
too. I was drawn to it. It's not uncommon, and it's kind of a unique characteristic that drywallers share, which is very cool.
Yeah.
That's why I like to interview drywallers. Like you were like you came on, you're like, oh, I'm with Davis Custom Homes. I'm like, is this a custom home builder guy? Because I
Yeah.
like to talk. I
Well,
like to talk drywall on the Drywall Podcast, man.
yeah, yeah, and I'm a drywaller by trade, and I tell everybody that, what did you do to get into this? Because in my field right now, about everybody that's a project manager or a site superintendent, you're 7 out of 10 that are just college graduates that have no real world experience. And
Right.
I love every facet of building, but drywall is still my favorite. I still strive to, I've talked about it. I've got a grundle of kids at home. That for me right now, just playing a little bit cool. But once they're done, I'm in talks with the guy of I'm gonna try and sell the hell out of Fresco Harmony in the area. So it is one of the main finishes in Southeast Idaho. And he's going to be the applicator. Get him trained up, just feed him job after job after job.
That's cool. And it's kind of a cool route to go. Like if I was a drywaller, I would kind of go. I mean, I'm biased, of course, but that
Yeah,
aspect I wanted to go back to talking about the construction industry and the pivotal point in the building of a home where you take it from stud to drywall. Like the house takes shape.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a really cool aspect of the construction industry to take part in. The homeowners come in, they're over the hump. It's like the kind of that, like, they're past like the
yeah,
foundation and the plumbing and all sort of the boring, the electrical, the boring stuff. And they walk into the house and it's sheetrocked and they can finally like experience their home for the first time. That's a really cool we get to
Yeah.
share that. The clients aren't, they're kind of a little looser, especially after, like, after the texture goes on, then it's like, oh man, it's looking like a home at that point.
Yes. Yep, exactly. And I've got a meeting later today with some clients on this house that they are over the moon. I sent them some pictures Friday afternoon when the sheetrock got fully installed, and they're on their way out today. And they are, I told them, like, it's going to be more exciting once the fresco goes up, because it will look like a home instead of a construction site. And yeah, to your point, I think being able to achieve that for a client is probably one of my favorite parts, where they get the actualization of a construction site to a home.
So you're sort of a unique character because you had experience in the custom home building side and also drywall finishing, also plaster. So
Yeah,
those are cool skill sets and unique to drywall. A lot of drywall finishers or drywallers, they just do drywall. They don't
yeah,
really branch out, which is hence the challenge of they haven't done plaster. They're not familiar with
yeah.
color or a spreadable finish. How do you like this client in particular? Do you just have sample boards ready and you're just like, hey man, can I interest you in paying more for plaster or Fresco Harmony? Are you way in the stratosphere with your price point, or is that a strategic aspect of selling Fresco Harmony that you leverage? Like, no, this is like not, this is more affordable. It's going to be more than paint. But
Yeah.
how do you approach that conversation?
So these homeowners, they approached me and they were asking me about American clay. And I have dealt with American clay. I'm not saying it's a bad product.
Sure.
But in this area, from Jackson to Idaho Falls, Pocatello, there is one guy that I know that does it, and he is at minimum a year out.
That's awesome.
And I asked
Good
them,
for him. He just crushes it with
yeah,
American clay.
well, I don't crushes it, or he just, the house I had him do, it took him about a month and a half to do.
Okay. All right.
And he did, I think, 5 rooms. And I'm telling you right now, the dude was an absolute professional.
Yeah.
Very, very attention to detail. He had to have his steps, which, me as a finisher, as a drywaller by trade, I'm like, dude, I'm going to let you do your thing. You just tell me when you
Okay.
need things or you need questions answered.
Okay.
But they had approached me about the American clay, and I brought that up to him. And I also asked him, I said, do you know how much you're going to be paying per square foot? Because me, for the role I have right now, I have to make them hyper aware of their budget.
Yeah.
And they weren't really sure. So at the same time, I wanted them to have a finish that is unique to their house, and or right now is unique to the area.
Yeah.
So I told them, hey, they were here for about 3 days. I said, hey, let me get you a sample of one that I had the Ferguson stone. I had a vial of it at my house, the color at my house.
Yeah.
So I did a sample for them on a 4-foot piece, brought it in, and I just did the standard, how you guys showed to do it on the website. And they asked me to get another 3 colors ready for them, and I showed them a picture of my house, how I did the application there. And they asked me to do the Ferguson stone, the Hesser port.
Yep.
And then I can't remember. It's the true gray. I can't remember what the color. The JJ Ash.
Yeah.
So I ordered those 3 colors. I gave them a price breakdown per square foot of what it would cost them to do that versus, the traditional skip trowel finish with just the gray paint.
Let's talk about the skip trowel versus the American clay versus like the Fresco price point, because they're paying more. They're still going to pay more for like Fresco Harmony versus skip trowel and paint.
Yeah.
Where are those price points landing? Like, let's say, paint texture versus American clay versus fresco.
So on this job, I don't have the square footage sitting in front of me. So the American clay was going to cost about $13 an additional square foot for the finish they wanted, and the square footage. Yeah.
That's good.
And I think all in all, with materials and drywall, materials and labor to do traditional skip, I think it was about $310 a square foot with the finish. And when
hang finish
tape texture.
Okay.
Yep.
$350.
Yep. And then when I got done giving them a price breakdown for the fresco, I think we're right at $393 or $397 with the added material.
Okay. Yeah, but that doesn't cover labor, does it? Or is that
no,
that's
that was
all
including
that's
labor.
all in $4 a square foot? That seems
$4
really
a square foot.
That seems competitive, especially at 13. You're a little more. Your prices are probably a little better up there than they are down here. But you're right around $4 a square foot, all in. That's only like 90 cents over your tape and your texture and paint cost.
Yeah. Yep. And when I showed them the difference, if they would have gone with the American clay, on this house in particular, we have about $22,000 for paint. And when I showed them what they would actually end up spending for the American clay versus the fresco, we saved them about $15,000 in paint on this house. And that was,
right.
Yeah.
People don't consider that. People don't consider backing out the paint costs. So you're paying $4 for fresco, but you have to back out that,
back out that paint cost. Yep.
Yeah, and it's not, and we're not talking trim. You still got trim. You got doors, probably the garage, lots of rooms that still need to be painted. Here's a question though: does it piss off the painter that you're taking all his like paint work?
So the painter I use, no, he actually is pretty excited to see this product because he's got some drywallers underneath him as well.
There you go.
That it might even be a situation where he covers the Jackson area and this other guy covers the Southeast Idaho side, to where I have him over there doing it. So he's going to come and see when I train these guys how to do the fresco, if it's something he's interested in. And then I'll have another market over in Jackson that I have another installer over there that can do it.
And like I told you, when you get on one of these big projects, man, you can talk to me. I'm flying tomorrow to see Rob up in Cleveland. He's flying me in to like do like a quick training and talk to like the builders. But I'd be happy to come up and like talk to your guys or do like a 2-day training. I'd rather do something like that than like, have a training where people come down and put on smocks and make little samples. Like screw that. Let's talk volume. Like volume, have a bunch of fun, do an accent wall for a builder, get everybody excited, give out some shirts and free product. Like I think that would be cool,
Yeah. I've got a few guys that I've been talking to over in the area about it for a little bit. I'm going to have them come over and take a look at this house when this one gets completely finished out. On the fresco side. And if I can get them to buy it, I would definitely love to entertain that idea, see if they'd be willing to, have their guys come in for a 2-day, just training, learning how to do it. Cool. And I've got a couple of guys that got shops big enough that we could entertain that idea. But yeah, I will definitely start floating that around and see if we can get something figured out. Cause I'd absolutely love to see Fresco Harmony over here.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
Fresco Harmony over here.
And then also too, the advantage to doing it in like your shop, or if people with shops, and then it's like, come to my studio and check out like some walls. That's just closes the deal.
Yeah. Yep. And I've got 6-7 sample boards, and they're more colors that I gravitate towards. But I've got I've got a client that wants that lighter green that you've got in the custom color pack. I can't remember what the name of it is. But she is dead set on using that one. And I'm looking forward to doing it. I've never done a green.
Yeah.
So, and I've got one that wants to do the sand in it. She's going to do a custom color. So that's another thing I'll have to send to you and get that figured out. The biggest thing that I drive home when I sell this stuff is the versatility of it. I mean, you can walk into Sherwin-Williams and pick a color, and then I can send you the color code, and we get a sample bottle, and we can do up a wall. And if they don't like it, the beautiful thing about it is I can go over the top of it.
Right.
And you don't have to worry about sanding it down or scraping it off, or putting some kind of primer on there that keeps it from bleeding through.
Right.
I have been nothing but wholly impressed with this product since I started using it.
I love that feedback. It's weird. It's just weird that it just hasn't existed, before. That part's weird to me. It's like, it's not really that big a deal, after all the bells and whistles, you put in the color, you seal it, and it's pretty gravy.
It really is an easy finish that has, and it's an easy way to go about providing the clients and the homes with a beautiful finish.
Yeah, let's go back to the custom home side of things. So that's interesting. After maybe your let's go back to the custom home side of things. So that's interesting. After maybe your plaster stint, 2009, the economy kind of goes to crap. Do you maybe start to diversify at that point? You maybe get into more so you start working for a custom home builder or something. He likes the cut of your jib.
Yep. I started doing, more of the administrative side of it, the manager side of it. I started working, doing my own stuff. I do basement remodels. I do, basically anything I could get my hands on. And then I started doing a couple of houses, more cookie cutter stuff for a couple of guys. And then, in 2000, and that happened for probably about 7 years. I was going about it that way while working a full-time job. And then I went over to West Yellowstone, tried getting my foot in the door over there. For a small community, it's a pretty cutthroat community. There's about 3 builders over there, and it's really hard to compete. So moved back over here, got picked up by a company called Road Construction as a site superintendent. And at that time I had built 9 of my own homes. 9 of my own houses. So they picked me up as a site super. I transferred from that to another company. I got scalped pretty much. They pulled me from another company. They enticed me with more money. So
great. Fantastic.
And they were a larger quantity custom home builder. So with them, I did the first 2 years, I did 5 custom homes, and I had 14 down the pipeline before I went to the company I'm currently working for. So over the course of the last, it's been 10 years. I've been in and out of Jackson, in the area doing custom homes since I was, working on parts of the custom homes, since I was 18. So transitioning over and taking on the more facets of the construction, it's been nice to learn the other parts of it. My heart still lies with drywall, but getting to see the other facets of it and learn it. I don't know if I would ever pick up a hawk and trowel again to do large jobs. Just finding them for guys, supplying them with the materials, is probably where I'll stay. That's just been my new norm. And that's typically how I've been running it. Finding the guys, getting the right crew lined out, getting them ready to do the jobs. And, like these guys I'm going to have do this project I'm currently sitting at. Finding the right guys for the job that were willing to learn something new, that I got them excited about doing it. is for me, like, that's just another hat I can wear.
Yeah.
Just doing the Fresco over here in that capacity.
And you're seeing too the value of offsetting something to your clients in a custom home setting that sets your competitor, it sets you apart from your competitors.
Yeah.
Like, because they don't have access to affordable plaster. That's my pitch. It's to builders. It's like, dude, you can have it's affordable plaster. All of a sudden, like, plaster's not out of reach. You can do it, and we're making faster ways to do it. This sand concept, adding the sand, spraying on the base coat, like gangbusters, man.
Yeah,
I mean, you can just really crush it out.
Yeah, and that's the it just speaks back to the versatility of Fresco, that it really isn't a hard sell if you can find the key points that the client needs to hear. And not that you're manipulating the clients, but from my side, I get to see all the budgetary items. I get to see, even if I'm working on a $16 million home,
right?
Well, if they want to do plaster, that's, you're probably material and labor. You're probably $300,000-$400,000 worth of material.
Well, and not to diminish the time, man. That dude, even doing American clay, a month and a half is crazy. A drywall company should be able to crush out Fresco, like whole house, in 2 weeks. Everything. Not just except for maybe the garage and closets. So that's a big deal. The material cost is a big deal, but like all these things, I feel like, have to line up not only for the client but for the builder too.
Yes.
Yeah,
well, and you do. You've got your budgetary items. You've got your schedule restrictions. Because I like stacking guys up to where basically, as soon as the drywallers are done brushing, sweeping the house out, I want the next crew in there either that day or the next morning. But when you've got to factor in, okay, with plaster, I got to factor in a house that's, let's say, 3,200 square feet habitable. I've got to give them 6 weeks, just in case any mistakes happen.
They're prima donnas too. Like, this guy probably didn't want anybody in his way. No.
While I'm in here, I don't want the doors open. I want the windows closed.
It's got to be temperature controlled.
Yeah, for sure. And that's there are I've got a drywaller that I'm using on another house that he is definitely one of those prima donnas. Like, I got to have the inside at 82 degrees at all times.
Nice.
What the hell for? Like, unless you like to sweat your ass off in February, be my guest. But, I used to give a lot of people shit that, electricians are the prima donnas of the drywall or the construction world. I'm finding now that there's a lot of drywallers that are.
It's a human condition, Logan. Yep. It's like, you find drywallers that are cool, drywallers that are assholes. You find like electricians that are like really cool. I was just talking with Drywall Shorty on the last episode about, like, I try to like be really nice when I go onto a job, because I was just doing Fresco. I got done on. I needed to finish on Monday, and I hesitated because it was like Easter weekend, but it was like just some hood, fireplace, some accent walls. And of course, I go back. The painter's redoing the beams in the room that I'm doing. They're sanding. And I'm like, I don't give a shit. I do, but like, it's loud. They're putting like dust airborne. I'm trying to seal. Whatever, it's going to be fine. The concrete guys picked that day to pour concrete on the front of the house, so I get to load out, walk my shit all the way around. And then the plumber, dude, like, I have one more wall to do, and that's the wall he wants to get on. I'm like, dude, just give me like 10 minutes so I can fucking seal this wall. And that's just the way construction is. And if I'm a dick, or if I call the homeowner or the builder and be like, dude, you got these people in here, I got to come back tomorrow, I'm charging you extra, they don't like that. No, nobody likes that.
I can remember being on 12-foot stilts with an unfinished an unfinished slab in a garage numerous times. I had a certain builder when I was doing my own thing that we were hanging sheetrock in I mean, it was like newborn giraffes walking through that place on our stilts, just trying to get the sheetrock up because there was no slab in the garage.
Yeah.
And I had one. He's like, "Well, you just duck your head and get your shit done." I'm like, "Well, I
Yeah.
got to do it regardless, whether I come back in a month or I come back or I do it right now. Like, I might as well just get it done."
Just get it done.
Yeah, and that's my. I get a lot of guys, especially on this high end custom home side, we're like, "Oh, I need everything my way." Piss off, just get it done.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about your feelings right now.
That plumber that I was dealing with was he only spoke Spanish. Like, I speak a little bit of Spanish, but I was nice to the guy. I was like, dude, I got this one wall. Like, can you give me 10 minutes? He like laughed. He was like, yeah, I'll give you 10, I'll give you time to finish. Yeah. Then he came back in and checked on me. He's like, is it cool? We can wait a little bit longer. So if you're cool to people, like, you can kind of work around people instead of getting all huffy puffy. I feel like it's kind of it's a good way. Because I used to be the huffy puffy kind of guy, back in the day, and it just makes the day suck.
It does. And I've got those guys that you constantly have to babysit them because everything's wrong, and they're the ones that the next time when I have another job starting up, they're calling me up. Hey, could we give you a bid? I'm good, dude. Like, I'm good. Because I got a tile guy in particular that phenomenal tiler, but my God, just one of those dudes that you're like, dude, I cannot give you unfettered access to this house. Like, you're working in a bathroom. They're working on the opposite side of the house doing something. Their dust from them, I had some guys doing, I can't remember what it was. They were in the garage. We had some reclaimed lumber that we're using for railing around the skywalk, and he's like, well, I just can't have the dust while I'm putting this grout on. I'm like, what dust are you talking about, dude? But it's that thing of you find guys. I've got another tile guy that does phenomenal work, and he doesn't give a damn. He just sets his head down and goes to work. He'll walk every piece all the way across the house to go out and cut it outside the garage.
And he's solving problems like without you being there. He's like, there's going to be problems, man. You want the subs that are like in there, like solving the problem, making the job site go better. Like, I don't think we take into consideration enough, especially drywallers. We are problem solvers. And like the more we have to bug the builder, the better that builder's going to dig us. When at the end of the day, man, they're going to be on top of that sub who can go in, work with the other trades and sort out little shit so that you don't have to call the builder every day with some stupid problem. I mean, stop me if I'm wrong. Like,
no, you're right. I would rather have guys that can think on their own, and I've got some high end material that I worry about, like, oh hell, if they don't cut it right, we're going to end up having to reorder this shit from Spain. But also, like, I've had guys where I walked in, I'm like, okay, how much of a mess am I walking into? What didn't they do because I wasn't here to answer questions? Walk in and the bathroom's done, they've got a whole shower done, or they've got all the flooring installed, and you're like, damn. Like, oh yeah, we ran into a problem, but we did this and this because we thought that's how you'd like to do it. Okay, I'll be calling you next time we got a flooring job to install, or I've got a trim job to do.
Done.
But if you got drywallers or any trade in there, like, oh, this stud's crowned, I got to float out the whole wall, then float it. Shim the damn thing and float it. Like, just do it. Don't make me come back an hour and a half drive to come tell you how to do your job.
Right. Or have a conversation with the carpenter and on the side and just be like, hey man, next time, can you check this? Like, it helps me a ton if you develop relationships with the painter, with the carpenter, like all that stuff, man, then because you're going to see that guy or that gal on the next job. And and that's the thing is, I typically like to use the same crews across all my builds because they know my expectations. And sometimes scheduling doesn't work out and I got to hire somebody else, or their budget didn't come in at the right, their estimate didn't meet the budget needs, and it's just that thing where it's like, okay, if you treat your people, and this also being said, like, you can be decent, but as my job site, as my job as a site supervisor, you get some trades or some guys are like, oh, well,
he's a nice guy. He doesn't really yell at anybody. And they try and take advantage of that. Oh, I'll be there Monday. Well, I meant next Monday, dude. God, come on. But, as long as you treat people decent and you're not stepping on everybody's toes and you can get the trades to work together, it makes everybody's job easier. Yeah. And like you said, the painter, the drywaller, I mean, if you can have it from the foundation guy all the way up that knows what you expect, and they know the next crew coming in after them, and they know what that next crew is going to like bitch to everybody else about, that they'll just take care of it and have it done. It just makes your job sites go faster. It makes your jobs look cleaner. It makes everything just about construction easier.
Yeah, I love it. I love this conversation. It's good to have a pro drywaller and a contractor, somebody that's skilled in all facets of contracting, so that we can branch out a little bit in this conversation. It's very cool. I like working with the builders here. I'm a prima donna. I just do Fresco, but also like the cool thing about Fresco is like I don't have to be worried about like temperature control anymore. The sealer works great. It can kind of get cold. Obviously, I don't want it freezing in there, but it's pretty user friendly, or somebody cuts a hole before it's sealed, I can fix it and seal. It's not, I'm not going to have to go and, if I'm doing plaster, it might be a much bigger repair than something simple with the Fresco. It's great. And then your social media, so maybe you might start seeing Logan popping back up on social media a little bit. You have to be nice to him though. If he comes on there, don't be a dick, because you're gonna scare him off. He's gonna go away.
You are. I'm like a turtle. I'll just go hide my shell.
What is and are you on Instagram or is it just Facebook? What do you look?
It's just Facebook. Right now, it's just Facebook. My Instagram's more personal. I am going to start. I've started putting together the stuff I'm going to put on Instagram when I open that page up. It will probably end up being Davis Custom Homes. On Instagram. That's just been what I've ran with. My drywall company was Davis.
There'll be a million Davis Custom Homes. So when you come on, it'd be Davis _ custom, whatever.
Yeah.
When you come on, make sure and like the Drywall Podcast, and we'll make sure and get, share some of your stuff to stories so that we can get you rolling. And then Facebook, what's your handle on Facebook so that people can go? Is it Davis Custom Homes over there?
It's Davis Custom Drywall on Facebook.
Okay. So head over to Davis Custom Drywall, finish there. And then do you have a website?
Nope. I do not do websites. I rely on all my business word of mouth, which has done me pretty good.
Okay. It is, I'll say this about a website, especially if you're getting into Fresco, it's kind of a nice platform to put photos of the work. Even if you just had a generic website where you just have a simple website and be like, Davis Custom Drywall or Davis Custom Homes, and just a smattering of simple pictures. Here's a contact page. Keep it simple, something like that.
Yeah, I'm if I can get more of the Fresco up and moving around here than what I've got planned or what's already under contract, that is definitely one thing I'm going to be doing.
Love it, man. Well, I'm here to support you in whatever way I can. I just was like, who is this guy out of Idaho that's buying this Fresco? I think I called you up. I was like, what are you doing over there? How are you selling this crap?
That was your first. I think besides, hey, this is Nick from Fresco Harmony. I'm like, hey, what the hell are you doing over there? What?
Making money, sucker. Making money.
Yep.
I love it. And then something I ask everybody is a pearl of wisdom that you can bestow on the drywall or construction building community, as it were. What would you say to your fellow tradesmen?
Honestly, 25 years of doing this, the biggest thing that I had to do was challenge myself. If it wasn't something that I was familiar with, I wanted to step up and challenge myself and doing a plaster, Level 5. The first time I did level 5 scared the absolute hell out of me because I'd never done it before by myself. But got knocked out of the park. Biggest thing is challenge yourself. Don't be afraid to dip your foot in a pond, because if you don't, you're going to miss. There's opportunities to miss a lot of money, a lot of work. And if I can make a product work that is a phenomenal sell, an easy sell, I'll do it all day, every day. I've challenged myself. That is the one thing that I was taught as a kid. Don't be afraid to take steps. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself when it comes to every day. But I apply that more in my work side. Don't be afraid to challenge yourself to do great things on a job.
Love it. That's cool. Is there any other products that you've used, having a broad knowledge that you have, any other products that you would recommend that have just been game changers in the construction industry?
One, I hate doing them, but they are, I did quite a bit of it, and I don't like doing them anymore just because and this is the on the construction side, not just drywall. Sure. Any kind of brick formed fireplace. They are beautiful. They bring a home together. This house here, we're going to have a brick formed fireplace inside, so it's going to have the open front with the Fresco Harmony abutting to it and stone going up the sides. It's going to look absolutely beautiful. Yeah. But the steps you have to take to do it, they're expensive over in my area. I don't know how they are. Isokern in particular is stupid expensive over here. But they pull together a house really well. That's probably one of my other favorites, and I also hate it at the same time. Sure. Just because it requires so many extra steps. But when you're looking at the grand scope of a home, it makes a beautiful focal point.
Okay. Do you do any or a lot of specialty drywall stuff, flush mount, outlet covers, vent covers, reveal beads?
Yep. We've done reveal beads, chamfer. Actually, this house is going to have chamfered bead in it.
Cool.
We thought about doing reveal bead. They stepped away from it. I use tearaway bead on all drywall. I think it gives it a cleaner finish. It looks better than just button up a factory end to, like I have exposed timbers inside this house. Yeah. It's just a cleaner transition. I think TrimTex is probably one of the biggest game changers that have happened for drywall as far as the corner bead game goes. I love their product.
Yeah. It not only does it look better, but you're going to get less cracking, than flat tape and those situations, especially if you're dealing with beautiful reclaimed stuff. Like that stuff is, if it's anything like what they were doing in Colorado, it's so pretty. Just a really the icing on the cake, man.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And then if you're doing Fresco too, like Fresco butting up against like that type of stuff is just really the cat's meow. I'm super excited to see the color transition between these exposed timbers and that JJ ash with Fresco. Just to see that transition, I think it's going to be absolutely beautiful. Very cool. Logan Davis, Construction, Davis Custom Drywall, Davis Custom Homes out of, what's the town you're in over there?
Idaho Falls, Idaho.
Okay. Very cool. Thank you so much for your time today. And
of course.
I hope you have a great rest of your day. I know you're a busy person. I really appreciate it. And, we'll keep the lines open about this. Like, it doesn't have to look a certain way, but like, it would be cool to do like, training, social media, some type of thing up there where, especially if you're doing large projects like this, man, I'd love to come up and do some videoing and show some dudes like what's up.
Yeah. I'll definitely, when we get this one done, I'm going to be sending you some pictures, of this project in particular with that JJ Ash, just so you can see it. I'm so stoked about using it in this house.
Yeah, it'll look cool. All right, sir. Well, you have a good rest of your day, and we'll talk soon, man.
All right. Have a good one, Nick.
All right, Logan. Bye.
Bye.
Huge shout out to Logan for joining us on the Drywall Podcast today. You, sir, will be getting a sweet swag bucket from our friends at CSR filled with all kinds of cool drywall swag. If you would like to come on to the Drywall Podcast and tell your story, well, I'd love to hear it. You can reach out to me directly at info@frescoharmony.com and we will get you hooked up. Also, I'd like to give a huge shout out to Tape Tech Tools for sponsoring the Drywall Podcast in the month of May. This month, Tape Tech is highlighting their newest member of the Tape Tool family, and it's a much needed member at that. Meet the T-Raxx system. That's T-Raxx, and it's the first and only tool rack system made specifically for ATF tools. The T-Raxx is exclusive to Tape Tech and available through Ames, Allwall, and West Tech. The rack system retails for just $149.99, and when paired with the stack pack boxes, you've got the most customizable pro-grade storage solution on the market. Head over and give Tape Tech a follow on your favorite social media platform and find out more about this new awesome tool. You have a lot of choices when you head over to that dial to find something on the radio or YouTube to listen to or watch. I am grateful that you chose the Drywall Podcast today. Tune in next week. We've got Jeremy from New Artisans on the show. He's a badass plaster dude, and he's going to tell his story. Until then, I hope you all have an amazing weekend. And remember, keep drywalling.